talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints. Ross Jackson got a piece up at LouisianaSports.net right now talking about the Saints potentially getting in the mix for Jaire Alexander. If you're going, wait a second, Jaire Alexander played for the Packers, right? Report from Ian Rappaport earlier today that the Packers set to release Jaire Alexander today. So does that make sense for the Saints? It's a weird spot. It's a weird spot. The Saints have some room to spend money at this point in the year. That never happens. The Saints never have salary cap space. They do, thanks to the retirement of Derek Carr. And they do kind of have a need at corner. You've got Alontae Taylor, fourth-year player. You've got Kool-Aid McKinstry moving into his second year, and you brought Isaac Yiadom back. But that's kind of where your cornerback room stops as far as proven assets. And so if you can get Jaire Alexander on a short-term deal with the money that you've got laying around, yeah, I'm all for it. Now, there is risk involved in taking Jaire Alexander. He hasn't played enough football in the last 3 years. You're talking about a guy who has missed significant time over the course of the last 3 seasons. And as you get older, that becomes a bigger problem. He's knocking on the door of 30, and he's playing about 7 games a year over the last 2 years. So this is not like the missing piece, but I'm all for bringing in talented veterans to help shepherd the younger players on this Saints roster with the contingent that you're not tying up significant money down the line. I don't know what the market is for Jaire Alexander. Clearly, Green Bay's decided they've had enough. So stands to reason it's not going to be just a feeding frenzy here. But if you got $30 million laying around and you can sign Jaire Alexander on a 1-year deal with some performance-based incentives to make sure he's on the field, and he can come in and help Alontae Taylor and certainly help Kool-Aid McKinstry and help some of the young defensive backs. You add him to a veteran room that includes Tyrann Mathieu, that includes Justin Reed. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with a 3-year deal for a 30-year-old cornerback who has played 7 games a year the last 2 years. I am okay on a 1-year deal. There are no such thing as bad 1-year deals when you're talking about the Saints right now, because you're not tying up funds for the next great Saints team. That's a phraseology I use all the time, the next great Saints team. And the odds are Jaire Alexander's not going to be on the next great Saints team, but I do see value in adding veterans. And the Saints kicked the tires a little bit earlier in free agency on Asante Samuel. And I think the same thing stands true for here. You don't have to give anything up to get Alexander. This is not a deal where you're trading away draft picks or any assets of any kind. You've just got some extra money to spend. So I'm all for spending it. You're talking about a guy who is a 2-time Pro Bowler, who's a boundary corner, who would make your team a little bit better. And so signing a 28-year-old with $8 million that you're not spending anywhere else, if that's what the market says, like, I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. I do think the Saints need to address the position. I think you're too thin at this point with that group that I just went through. So this, to me, makes a lot of sense. I think the craziest thing as I was kind of prepping this segment and thinking about the way to approach it and whether or not I think it makes sense is I just kept looking at myself going, I can't believe we're talking about the fact that the Saints have a piggy bank with spare change in it. That never happens this time of year. Thanks, Derek Carr. That's great. We appreciate it. And you can talk about adding guys that can, one, make your team better, maybe make your organization a little bit better. And I think a guy that comes from such an incredible organization in Green Bay that's played at a very high level is worth a shot. Again, no long-term deals, no 4-year contract, but 1 year, come in, play some ball, teach the young corners that you're now counting on to usher in this new era post-Lattimore, post-Paulson Adebo, usher that era in. Yeah, I'm all for that. If Asante Samuel works out, great. If Jaire Alexander works out, great. Just make the money work out. Don't do anything foolish. And to be clear, like, the Saints really haven't. I didn't love the Juwan Johnson signing, and I was tepid on Justin Reed. But none of it's egregious. And so I don't expect the Saints to do anything egregious here. I think that it just makes sense to see if you can bring them to the table. Your issue is you're not a very attractive destination. I don't know how long that Jaire Alexander has left to play. Corners that are 28 are generally on about their last leg. Does he want to play for a team that's got a better chance to compete for a championship? Probably. But if you outspend that team by $1 million, who's to say that he won't end up in your lap? And you've got that now to play with. Financial freedom's a heck of a thing. Check that out, Mick. It's a good deal. So we'll see if that's the case. Justin Reed chose to play for the Saints over the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a home type deal, and Jaire Alexander doesn't necessarily have that going. But hey, I think that it makes a lot of sense that potentially you could make that happen over the next couple of weeks should the release of Jaire Alexander come official from Green Bay. Right now, just a report. I'm assuming that that's going to come to fruition. Ian Rappaport not in the business of making things up, but I think it can make some sense for the Saints to bring him in and see what he can do. And hey, if he plays really well and you feel like there's 2 more years in him and you want to make that addition right there and then lock him up for 2 more years after he plays a healthy season and still shows he can really do it, I'm not opposed to that in any way. I think that could be a solid move for the New Orleans Saints. So we'll see if the Saints decide to do that. Got a little money to spend. There are some veterans out there that you can do it. I think corner is a great spot for the Saints to have. I think they're a little bit thin at that spot, if talented, but a little bit thin there at corner. So if you're looking for Saints coverage, you can find it at LouisianaSports.net. Ross Jackson's got you covered. You can certainly find it over at Hunt on Saints on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Hunt on Saints, all Saints all year long. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.